What's up, chat? Welcome back to another daily read on the channel. Today is day 197 of our 1 year Bible read. And if you look at the clock, it's my birthday. um, Hope y'all having a great night. This is day 197. It's a late night stream. And I hope you guys are here for tonight's read and are here to enjoy. Today is coming from day 715. Because we're 2 days early, right? That's why we're 2 days early in our read. Let me know if there's anything going on with the audio or the background music, or if I need to adjust the volume in any way as you guys come in. But today is day 197 in a row of our 1 year Bible read. You know, we've been doing this for 197 days and we're doing it for 365 full and completely. So today's read is coming from 1 Chronicles 19:1 through 21. It's going to be followed up with Romans 2:25 through 3, and then Psalms 11:1 through 7, and Proverbs 19:10 through 12. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter read compared to usual, but only by a page. So without further ado, let's get into it. But before we start to read tonight, we have something from Psalms 111:4 at the very top, and I'll let you guys read this for yourself. Okay, let's see if I can get that in there properly. Bam. Okay. So welcome everybody who wishes to attend tonight, and let's go ahead and get started. So Psalms 11:4 to start off tonight's read, coming out here. So the Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord still rules from heaven. So Psalm 11:4. Now let's get into 1 Chronicles 19:1 through 21. Sometime after this, King Nahash of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun became king. What's up, Can Man? David said, I am going to show loyalty to Hanun because his father, Nahash, was always loyal to me. So David sent messengers to express sympathy to Hanun about his father's death. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. But when David's ambassadors arrived in the land of Ammon, the Ammonite commander said to Hanun, do you really think these men are coming to honor your father? No, David has sent them to spy out the land so they can come in and conquer it. So Hanun seized David's ambassadors and shaved them, cut off their robes at the buttocks, and sent them back to David in shame. When David heard what had happened to the men, he sent messengers to tell them, stay at Jericho until your beards grow out, and then come back. For they felt deep shame because of their appearance. When the people of Ammon realized how seriously they had angered David, Hanun and the Ammonites sent 75,000 pounds of silver to hire chariots and charioteers from Aram, Makkah, and Zobah. They also hired 32,000 chariots and secured the support of the king of Makkah and his army. These forces camped at Medeba, where they were joined by the Ammonite troops that Hanun had recruited from his own towns. When David heard about this, he sent Joab and all his warriors to fight them. The Ammonite troops came out and drew up the battle lines at the entrance of the city. While the other kings positioned themselves to fight in open fields, when Joab saw that he would have to fight on both the front and the rear, he chose some of Israel's elite troops and placed them under his personal command to fight the Arameans in the fields. He left the rest of the army under the command of his brother, Abishai, who was to attack the Ammonites. If the Arameans are too strong for me, then come over and help me, Joab told his brother. And if the Ammonites are too strong for you, I will help you. Be courageous. Let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. May the Lord's will be done. When Joab and his troops attacked, the Arameans began to run away. And when the Ammonites saw the Arameans running, they also ran from Abishai and retreated into the city. Then Joab returned to Jerusalem. The Arameans now realized that they were no match for Israel. The Arameans realized that they were no match for Israel, so they sent messengers and summoned additional Aramean troops from the other side of the Euphrates River. These troops were under the command of Shobak, the commander of Adizer's forces. When David heard what was happening, he mobilized all Israel, crossed the Jordan River, and positioned his troops in battle formation. Then David engaged the Arameans in battle, and they fought against him. But again the Arameans fled from the Israelites. This time David's forces killed 7,000 charioteers and 40,000 foot soldiers, including Shobach, the commander of their army. One of these allies saw that it had been defeated by Israel. They surrendered to David and became his subjects. And after that, the Arameans were no longer willing to help the Ammonites. In the spring of the year, when the kings normally go out to war, Joab led the Israelite army in successful attacks against the land of the Ammonites. In the process, he laid siege to the city of Rabbah, attacking and destroying it. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. Then David went to Rabbah and removed the crown from the king's head, and it was placed on his own head. The crown was made of gold and set with gems, and he found that it weighed 75 pounds. Goodness gracious. David took a vast amount of plunder from the city. He also made slaves of the people of Rabbah and forced them to labor with saws, iron picks, and iron axes. That is how David dealt with the people of the Ammonite towns. Then David and the army returned to Jerusalem. After this, war broke out with the Philistines at Gezer. As they fought, Sibbecai from Hushai killed Saph, a descendant of the giants, and so the Philistines were subdued. During another battle with the Philistines, Elhanan, son of Yair, killed Lami, the brother of Goliath of Gath. The handle of Lami's spear was as thick as a weaver's beam. In another, in another battle with the Philistines at Gath, they encountered a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all, who was also a descendant of the giants. But when he defied and taunted Israel, he was killed by Jonathan, the son of David's brother, Shemaiah. These Philistines were descendants of the giants of Gath, but David and his warriors killed them. Satan rose up against Israel and caused David to take a census of the people of Israel. So David said to Joab and the commanders of the army, "Take a census of all the people of Israel, from Beersheba in the south to Dan in the north, and bring me a report so I may know how many are there." But Joab replied, "May the Lord increase the number of his people 100 times over. But why, my lord the king, do you want to do this? Are they not all your servants? Why must you cause Israel to sin?" But the king insisted that they take the census. So Joab traveled throughout all of Israel to count the people. Then he returned to Jerusalem and reported the number of people to David. There were 1,100,000 warriors in all Israel who could handle the sword, and 470,000 in Judah. But Joab did not include the tribes of Levi and Benjamin in the census because he was so distressed at what the king had made him do. God was very displeased with the census, and he punished Israel for it. Then David said to God, "I have sinned greatly by taking this census. Please forgive my guilt for doing this foolish thing." Then the Lord spoke to God. David's seer, this was the message. "Go and say to David, this is what the Lord says. I will give you 3 choices. Choose one of these punishments, and I will inflict it on you." So God came to David and said, "These are the choices the Lord has given to you. You may choose 3 years of famine, 3 months of destruction by the sword of your enemies, or 3 days of a severe plague, as the angel of the Lord brings devastation throughout the land of Israel. Decide what answer I should give the Lord who sent me." "I'm in a desperate situation," David replied to God. "But let me fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is very great. Do not let me fall into human hands." So the Lord sent a plague upon Israel, and 70,000 people died as a result. And God sent an angel to destroy Jerusalem. But just as the angel was preparing to destroy it, the Lord relented and said to the deaf angel, "Stop, that is enough." At that moment, the angel of the Lord was standing by the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. David looked up and saw the angel of the Lord standing between heaven and earth with his sword drawn, reaching out over Jerusalem. So David and the leaders of Israel put on the burlap to show their deep distress and fell face down onto the ground. And David said to God, "I am the one who called for the census. I am the one who has sinned and done wrong. But these people are as innocent as sheep. What have they done? O Lord my God, let your anger fall against me and my family, but do not destroy your people." Then the angel of the Lord told God to instruct David to go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. So David went up to do what the Lord had commanded him through God. Araunah, who was busy threshing wheat at the time, turned and saw the angel there. His 4 sons who were with him ran away and hid. When Araunah saw David approaching, he left his threshing floor and bowed before David with his face to the ground. David said to Araunah, "Let me buy this threshing floor from you at its full price. Then I will build an altar to the Lord here, so that he will stop the plague." "Take it, my lord the king, and use it as you wish," Araunah said to David. "I will give you the oxen for the burnt offerings, and the threshing boards for wood to build a fire on the altar, and the wheat for the grain offering. I will give it all to you." But, excuse me, but King David replied to Araunah, "No, I insist on buying it for the full price. I will not take what is yours and give it to the Lord. I will not present burnt offerings that have cost me nothing." So David called Araunah 600 pieces. So David gave Araunah 600 pieces of gold in payment for the threshing floor. David built an altar there for the Lord and sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. And when David prayed, the Lord answered him by sending fire from heaven to burn up the offering on the altar. Then the Lord spoke to the angel, who put the sword back into its sheath. When David saw that the Lord had answered his prayer, he offered sacrifices there at Araunah's threshing floor. At that time, the tabernacle of the Lord and the altar of the burnt offering that Moses had made in the wilderness were located at the palace of worship in Gibeon. But David was not able to go there to inquire of God, because he was terrified by the drawn sword of the angel of the Lord. And chat, that is the end of today's read from there. So let's hop into Romans 2:25 through 3. The Jewish ceremony of circumcision has value only if you obey God's law. But if you don't obey God's law, you are no better off than an uncircumcised Gentile. And if the Gentiles obey God's law, won't God declare them to be his own people? In fact, uncircumcised Gentiles who keep God's law will condemn you Jews who are circumcised and possess God's law but do not obey it. For you are not a true Jew just because you are born of Jewish parents or because you have gone through the ceremony of circumcision. No, a true Jew is one whose heart is right with God. And a true circumcision is not merely obeying the letter of the law. Rather, it is a change of heart produced by the Spirit. And a person with a changed heart seeks praise from God, not from people. Then, what's the advantage of being a Jew? Is there any value in the ceremony of circumcision? Yes, there's a great benefits. First of all, the Jews were entrusted with the whole revelation of God. True, some of them were unfaithful, but just because they were unfaithful, does that mean that God will be unfaithful? Of course not. Even if everyone else is a liar, God is true, as the scriptures say about him. You'll be proved right in what you say, and you will win your case in court. But some might say our sinfulness serves a good purpose, for it helps people see how righteous God is. Isn't it unfair then for him to punish us? This is merely a human point of view? Of course not. If God were not entirely fair, how would he be qualified to judge the world? But someone might still argue, how can God condemn me as a sinner if my dishonesty highlights his truthfulness and brings him more glory? And some people even slander us by claiming that what we say, the more we sin, the better it is. Those who say such things deserve to be condemned. And now Psalms 11:1 through 7. I trust in the Lord for protection. So why do you say to me, "Fly like a bird to the mountains for safety"? The wicked are stringing their bows and fitting their arrows on the bowstrings. They shoot from the shadows at those whose hearts are right. The foundations of law and order have collapsed. What can the righteous do? The Lord in his holy temple, the Lord still rules from heaven. He watches everyone closely, examining every person on earth. The Lord examines both the righteous and the wicked. He hates those who love violence, and will rain down blazing coals and burning sulfur on the wicked, punishing them with scorching winds. For the righteous Lord loves justice. The virtuous will see his face. And on Proverbs 19:10-12. It isn't right for a fool to live in luxury, or for a slave to rule over princes. Sensible people control their temper, so they earn respect by overlooking wrongs. The king's anger is like a lion's roar, but his favor is like the dew on the grass. And now convolution is not the solution. Convolution is not the solution. Whew. Sorry, Jay, it's been a long day. Not like a long day, like a bad long day, but like a long day as in I got two of my nephews at the house. They're like 1 and 2 years old, and they really love spending time with me. So I'm just like I'm like just a little out of it. I'm just a little out of it. Yeah, but Convolution is not the solution. Sometimes we convolute our thinking and get everything exactly wrong. Just like the Roman convoluters Paul addressed. They deluded themselves into thinking that the more they lied, the greater God's truth and glory would appear. We can get caught up in some pretty strange thinking too. We tell ourselves, I'm not hurting anyone when I lust after someone else. As if our sole standard was just not to hurt anyone. Lust devalues and objectifies women. It damages us in our relationships, present and future, by obscuring our view of sexuality. Worst of all, it grieves God. Now I'm turning off this camera. That's for clarity, wisdom, and discernment of today's word, and I'll be right back. Can Man. I like that name. I can man. I can man. Can man. The Can Man. Hoo hoo hoo. We're bringing this back again today. So, just 'cause I haven't seen that one in a while. I don't always open up the book and look at the table of contents, So I haven't seen that in a while. Today it just popped up. So I wanted to share that with y'all really quickly. Let go of the judges. Let's get back to our word tonight, though. So tonight, chat, excuse me. So tonight, chat, we read from 1 Chronicles 19:1 through 21. Then Romans 2:25 through 3. Followed up with Psalms 11:1 through 7. And then Proverbs 19:10 through 12. Okay, so we'll start with Proverbs. It isn't right for a fool to live in luxury or for a slave to rule over princes. Since both people control their temper and they earn respect by overlooking wrongs. The king's anger is like a lion's roar, but his favor is like dew on the grass. Okay, so let's break down this verse up for tonight. So Proverbs 19:10 through 12. It isn't right for a fool to live in luxury or for a slave to rule over princes. Um, you know, these are mindsets, right? Since both people control their temper. Big one here. Um, the big one here is to learn how to breathe and let it go. And this follows up in this very next verse. They earn respect by overlooking wrongs. You breathe and you let it go, right? You breathe and you let it go. Because people are going to do some stuff in this world, in this life. And you breathe and you let it go, right? So, um, and the king's anger is like a lion's roar, but his favor is like dew on grass, right? Um, we can take the king here in this parable as God, right? Because God is the king. You feel me? So uh, it's like a lion's roar, right? You can feel that the thunderquake, the earth shaking, the earth the the world becoming crazy, right? But the God's favor is like dew on grass. You know, it's so abundant, it's everywhere. So, um, but let's keep on going until 1 Chronicles 19:1 through 21. Um, sorry, my ear was itching. Okay, so as we've been talking about David and we've been building David up here in these past two past chapters, right, chat? Um, Now we're going to show that everybody makes mistakes, right? David made a mistake, right? This is for everybody who's ever made a mistake in this life, who has allowed themselves to beat themselves up about it, and didn't let it pass, and they allowed themselves to be judged by the people instead of just allowing God to judge them, right? Um, so we have something that we can learn from David here in this situation. So David, he made a mistake, right? And he got three options, right? Two of those options were to pretty much allowed him to be judged by other people, right? And the last option was to be judged by God, right? And so we have a choice here. Would you rather be sitting around and be judged by people, or would you rather be judged by God? God will forgive you, even even though things might go out of array slightly. Not, but it was nowhere near as crazy as the other two options, right? The other two options were pretty much being taken over by other people. They probably would have been killed, right? But when David went with God's choice, the obviously the for with God's judgment on this one, right? God was merciful. Um, The angel of death was there to take out everybody, but God said stop, right? So, who would we rather be judged by? The people or God, right? You don't got to tell all your business to people. Tell your business to God. If you mess up, tell it to God. You don't have to tell it to other people. But other people gonna judge you. They might judge you crazily. They might never look at you the same, right? But God is not gonna look. It's not gonna do that, right? You make a mistake, you tell it to God, right? He tell you, okay, this is how you can learn from this and how you can go better in life, right? And that's just it. And that's just it. It's completely different than having the feeling like you have to go tell everybody else and then watch them judge you, and then you start to condemn yourself along with them, and then you go through these years and years and years of turmoil, and you try to fight your way back. You try to do all these battle stories, and I mean it's a storyline. Everybody has a storyline, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? I'm not saying either choice is wrong. I'm saying it doesn't have to be that way. You have a choice. He gave David a choice. This is showing us that you have a choice, right? You have a choice, right? And there are options, and some options are probably better than the other ones, right? But it's really just what would you rather go with? What would you rather how would you rather live? Do you want your life story to be, I mean, it's cool regardless. Everybody has there are different generations of these stories, but I don't want to be another one of those people with those stories. I don't want to be another one of those stories, right? Um, I don't want to be one of those stories. Somebody else can if they want to, but me, not me, right? So I'd rather go to God about what's going on in my life. Y'all are cool. I mess with y'all, right? But who's to know if y'all would switch up on me or not? I would hope you wouldn't, right? But one person I know ain't gonna switch up on me is God, right? I'd have met a lot of people. I'd have made a lot of friends. I find out that I honestly I choose really good friends, right? But who's to say that at some point they wouldn't switch on me either, right? So, you know, if I'm a really if I'm gonna really talk to somebody, I'm gonna talk to God. Yes, I also confide in my friends and tell my friends stuff and spend good time. That's how we build camaraderie and relationships that last generations, right? But um, if I really need to talk to somebody, I'm gonna talk to God about it, right? So, because I know God ain't gonna judge me, and if anything felt like judgment, it wasn't it wasn't from God. It was from something external, or me. It wasn't God. It was something else, So even if God is laying the smackdown on me, telling me, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to build yourself back up." That smackdown is a way more gentle smackdown than a smackdown I would get from a person, you know, or a judgment system out here, or a court system, or I'm not saying I ever done anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, um, it's just so much more grace when you tell God these things rather than if you were to confide in anything else or anybody else, or whatever else there is out here to try to confide into, right? Um, it's just different. It's not the same, you know. I done both. I done lived both, and I've learned a lot from doing being alive. I learned a lot from being alive, you know. Um, and one valuable thing I've definitely have learned is, you know, if I'm gonna confide in anybody, so I'm gonna confide in God. You know, I done all these other things. I done try all these things, and nothing comes up, and nothing stands up next to talking to God about it. You know, nothing does. So, um, and if anybody gonna judge me, it's gonna be God. If I'm gonna let anybody judge me, the only person I'm gonna let judge me is God. So man, but this is what we kind of learned from David's story here. He had the option to be judged by the people, to allow some other other human out here to judge him. No, he said, okay, I'm gonna go with God because I know God gonna be merciful, right? I know, even if it looked like God taking us out, because the angel of death was out there killing them. You might think humans got power, but if God gave the power to something to take you down, then you take him down. You know, So, um, but he called him off. He called off his angel of death. He said, "Wait, that's enough. That's mercifulness." You know, you can take it. You can take it the wrong way if you want to, but that's on you, right? Um, and that's the point of breathing. Not being quick to anger. These are things that we're beating a dead horse here. I'm telling you. I've said this several times as we read through the Bible, right? The Bible is literally beating the same thing into your mind over and over and over and over and over again until you get it. Until you get it. It's saying it in so many different ways so that anybody can get it. It's saying it in so many different ways, giving so many different perspectives, just so you can get it, you know? And I know if you're trying to ignore it, you'll find so many other things to pay attention to. But you have to be trying to ignore something that is saying the same thing over and over again. You have to be trying to ignore it, right? And trying to find something else, right? So, um, as we continue to read here, we have learned the same lessons over and over and over again. And sometimes that's exactly what you need, right? Um, and we don't even have to learn them the hard way. We're learning it just from reading and asking for clarity, wisdom, and discernment. And that's it. It's not even like we're going through a tough trial in life right now. We're not. We're reading the book and asking for clarity, wisdom, and discernment after we read these chapters, right? It's not even crazy. But if you really are ignoring, if you're not getting the point, you're just being blatant. You're just blatantly just not wanting to get the point, right? Because we read the same thing in different ways so many times, so many times. And the only way you don't get it is if you're trying not to. But let's keep on going to our next pieces. We also read from Romans 2:25 through 3. Um, and um, this is pretty much not to get, not to start smelling yourself, right? And here we're talking about the Jewish people and the Gentiles, right? And we're talking about how the Jewish people, they're circumcised, they're supposed to be God's people here in the Bible. But there's also the Gentiles who are also blessed to come in as God people as well, but they just aren't circumcised. They don't have the same kinds of things going on, but they still kind of listen to the same things. And now the Gentiles could overstep the Jewish people if since they're obeying and if the Jewish people were not obeying, right? Um, and this is just a reminder to not be smelling yourself, right? Not Don't forget who your help comes from. When you when I say smelling yourselves, you start to believe everything. how um, you start to believe the power isn't coming from God and is coming specifically from you, right? You start to diminish God here, and you start to only believe it's coming from you, right? You start to lose respect for everything God has done for you in your life. And you start to claim that you did everything, right? We talked about this before, but it's a type of trickery and a kind of question that some people who despise God, obviously, um, do to there's a kind of way they question them in a way to make them um, scorn God, right? Um, when I'm kind of forgetting the terms of questions, but I mean, if you've been questioned like this before, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But um, they ask you questions like, can't think of them right now. It's crazy. I guess it's not meant to be spoke on at this moment. Um, so I won't. I guess I won't go into the questions at this moment. But you know, they'll ask you questions, right? And they'll try to get you to answer them based on yourself while leaving God out of the equation. Pretty much, it's pretty much what I'm saying, right? Um, to make you start smelling yourself a little much, right? To lead you into your ego, right? Um, it's like a trap to make you get lost, right? And let's not be led into the abyss, right? Let's not be led into the abyss, especially not from a simple question, right? Um, and let's remember that everything that you ever done in your life didn't come from you, because if it did, you'd probably be able to explain it. You'd probably be able to explain it, probably to the T, if you did it, right? And if you can't do that, then you know that's not the truth. I feel like that's just how simple as it is. Um, so it's just a reminder not to start. Don't start smelling yourself. Now, I got your back. I'm here with you. But remember, yo, it's because I'm working through you, not anything else. None of this other stuff is doing it for you. None of these other things that you believe that you have that are giving you this power. No, those things are not giving you any power. If you want to tell the truth of it, they're taking the power from you because they're allowing you to believe in them, right? And they're trying to trick you into believing in them, which is when they actually do is they siphon your power. They pull your power from you when you start to believe in these other things, right? Because they only are powered through you, right? And all these things know that because everything is living, right? Um, and so, you know, it truly is a crazy world we live in, but it's like beautiful. It's not chaos. It's beautiful. It's like poetic in a way. I know God really spits crazy bars, and obviously because he makes all these musicians in the world who tell these beautiful stories, or these people who write these beautiful books, or these people who make these beautiful movies, or just artists who make these beautiful paintings, or people who just do beautiful things for other folks, right? It's all just so poetic, you know. It's honestly absolutely beautiful. But let's hop into the next part of today's read, Proverbs 19:10 through 12. Oh, actually, we already talked about that. But let's just hit this verse 11 one more time. Sensible people control their temper and they earn respect by overlooking wrongs, right? Um, Sometimes you just got to breathe. You got to remember just to breathe, to let it go, and to walk and to move on. Sometimes you got to learn how to just breathe, let it go, and move on, right? And that is the end of today's 1 year Bible read. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night because I'm gonna have a great rest of mine. It's 11:55. We made it just in the nick of time. I said nicker. That kind of that could have came off as kind of crazy. I was gonna say nickel, and that just oh man, goodness gracious. I should have just left it at Nick. But it is what it is, bro. Um, but yeah, we made it just in the nick of time. 11:56 here. Um, and I hope you guys all have goodness gracious. Trying to make a joke, and I should not have made that joke because it sound crazy, bro. That sound kind of crazy. It is what it is. It is what it is. I ain't gonna lie. It is what it is. But this is the end of today's 1 year Bible read, and we made this outro. Y'all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for another beautiful day, another beautiful read, and another beautiful time spending some presence with you all. Thank you for your presence. It's always appreciated. And I'm gonna see you next time on the next time we stream and on the next One Year Bible Read.